The mindset's such a powerful thing, and to be able to now take the mindset and say, okay, what the mind can conceive and believe the mind can achieve. And I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, breaking the toxic cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess-ups, make-ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real, and it might just change the way you see family.
Welcome to another episode of Fatherhood Voices. I am Melissa, co-host and sidekick chick of my dad. I know we were going to kick that, but it's okay. We're just going to go with it. And I am joined again by my father, the man behind Fatherhood Voices himself. Dad, how are you doing today?
Going through the trials and tribulations of healing. Mindset is there. Just the mobility, the physical mobility is just the struggles that I'm going through. But I'm happy to be alive.
So to recap, you were in a serious accident on October 10th. And it left you fighting for your life. And you were intubated and sedated for multiple days in the ICU. And I'm just going to say, I don't think that you fully understand the severity yet, but it was a horrible accident. And, there are some times that we didn't know if you were going to make it. And I'm really glad that you did, because it was a really scary time. But we really just pulled through as a family, and we did what we needed to. And for those of you that don't know, so you were in a bad accident that morning, and it was tough. I want to go back and I want to talk a little bit about what actually happened, because a lot of this is going to be news to you. On the morning that your accident happened, you actually went missing, and nobody knew where you were. And I do want to share that there was something very interesting that happened. I had a dream. And in that dream, I thought that you had came back home because I saw you laying on the couch. But you were very still. And I'm just going to say, I didn't think that you were dead. You didn't look that way. You looked alive, but you looked like in a restful state. And so I thought that you were home. And when I was walking back to the room, I heard you say behind me, as if your presence was following me, I have a project for you. And then I was back in bed. And I started to feel my body very heavy. It was an episode of sleep paralysis. And I didn't understand what it meant at the time. And it woke me up feeling very uneasy and weak. But I didn't think too much about it. I thought that it was strange. But I'm used to having sleep paralysis every now and then. But it did set off my morning to feel very weird. So by the time that I was getting up, I was getting together, I realized that you weren't there. And I thought that was weird, but I said, okay, he could be at the gym, could be doing some different things. So I decided to call you on my way to work. You didn't answer. It actually went straight to voicemail, which I thought was strange. And I thought, okay, he could be busy doing different things. You're always on the go. But it just didn't sit right with me. And by the time I got to work, I started reaching out to Mom and asking, have you heard from Dad? And she said, no. And that set off us starting a timeline of when you were last heard from. And what we came to realize is that calling around, no one else had heard from you. And the one thing that really set me off was your social medias had no new postings on them. And it already didn't sit well with me, but I knew something was off. There was no way that you would have not posted something, anything. So, we called close family and friends, and before I knew it, we were all calling and searching for you. We were calling hospitals and looking at CHP to see if there were any accidents.
And prisons.
And we were calling prisons. Hey, we just had to be real. We were calling prisons and jails as well. And just calling around, we were trying to ping where you were, and we didn't know from where you last were to where you were. And by this time, it's getting later and later. And the time's going on and nobody's heard from you. And it's just something's not sitting right. And one of the things I did is on my lunch break, I actually drove back to the apartment to see if you were there. And you weren't. And everything was the way I left it. And when I realized that, my stomach sank. And I was afraid to tell my mom because I already knew that she was panicked. We were panicked. But that was going to be the next level of panic, because that's when things really, really started to hit. And so I had to call her and I had to tell her. We widened out the search and nobody heard from you. And luckily, one of your friends had your location. But your location into a towing yard. And upon phone calls and various things, we've realized that your car was involved in an accident. But we didn't know where you were. We received no phone calls from CHP, no police departments, no hospital, nothing. We were absolutely kept in the dark, unfortunately. So finally, when we started to narrow down our search of where accident happened, it was actually my youngest sister, Clarissa, that found you. She was able to talk with police department, and then that's when they told us where you were. And when we found out that you were out, thankfully one of the best trauma hospitals in the country, we knew that it was bad because there's no way that they would have taken you there had it just been minor injuries. And that's when shit really hit the fan, essentially speaking. And that window between finding out your car was in an accident and not knowing where you were was probably the most terrifying part of all of it, because we knew that you had been hurt, but we didn't know if you were alive. And it was getting concerning because every hospital we called, you weren't there. And so it was just praying and praying that you were in a hospital and you were alive. And Clarissa finally found you, thank goodness. And that's what then started a rush over to get over to you. When we saw you, I was actually saw you before my mom. It was so jolting because I'm so used to seeing you so strong in a certain way that it got me. But at the same time, I had to compartmentalize my emotions because I felt like I couldn't break yet. I had to it's almost like I couldn't even absorb yet. It was like a weird experience, and I had to brace Mom because I knew that it was going to hit her like a ton of bricks. And you went through multiple surgeries. The first one we didn't know about until later, that you had to have emergency surgery as soon as you got in there because you almost flatlined. Your blood pressure dropped so far down that they had no choice but to put you into surgery. And you had to go for a second surgery. And that second surgery, I'm not sure if you want me to share details about what your injuries were. Sure. Okay. So you had a really bad head wound. You had multiple brain bleeds all over your head.
Down to my membrane.
Down to your skull membrane. And they actually told us that your head was mushed. So, unfortunately...
Like a mushroom head.
It was literally like a mushroom. And your intestines were essentially ripped out from your rectum. So, you had to have multiple surgeries to just have the ostomy bag put in. Which you now
So I have a shit bag right here now.
So now you do. And
So I'm really literally full of shit.
hey, you are
Carrying it
full of
around.
shit. You said it. I mean, hey, the universe, I don't know. But so you have the ostomy bag. You're going to have that for quite some time. And you had 2 broken wrists and a broken hand. One of which we were told needed surgery. But you're still going to, so you still have multiple surgeries that you're going to endure. But you did have to have second surgery, and that was to put the colostomy bag in to start reconnecting things. And with that, we were told about the risks. With everything, there's risks. And we were given a specific time frame, and you went over that time frame. And this was probably a few days. You were still in the ICU, getting ready to go into surgery. And we just knew that something was wrong because it just had taken too long. And we had checked in with the nurses, and there was just nothing that was heard of yet. And it just didn't sit right. And we had multiple family members and friends that were there. And it was like holding our breath because something it wasn't right. And we come to find out a couple hours later that something did happen. You had another internal bleed. And luckily they were able to stop it. But it was just that, I'm telling you, we all held our breath because we didn't know what was going to happen, and we didn't know what was happening.
Something I want to say is I guess I had multiple transfusions of blood, and I've given blood in the past, but never been consistent with it. So it's very important for people to give blood, because you never know when you can be in this situation. Thankfully, there was blood available to help me with my injuries, but that's something that going forward, I want to add to my monthly routine, is to be able to give blood so that people that are in need have access to it. I just want to share that.
I think that's something that I want to add to my routine too. That's those transfusions saved your life, because you lost so much blood that we were told you just essentially bled out in that accident. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is that I got COVID during the time that you were in the hospital. And that added another level of complication to me not being able to be there. But I was such in a routine that it just had my routine of getting up every day, checking in with the nurses, driving mom over there, us going over there, and just being with you most of the day. And it really made it really hard for me, especially when you're released from the hospital, because I couldn't be with you. And I hadn't seen you since you were in the hospital. And you were sedated a lot, and you were medicated a lot. So you weren't you. But I knew that as they started to lift off of that, you would start to kind of come back. And although it's been a struggle, and it's sometimes like you're here, but you're not here. But it made it really hard for me to be away, because I had to go quarantine myself. And I couldn't be here. So I was really happy when I got over it. And I finally got to be here and talk to you and hug you. And this is the first time that we're having this full-on conversation about things that have happened.
I guess I was told that when I was coming out of my sedation and so forth, that I was pulling everything out and they had to restrain me down.
Yes.
Because I was trying to figure out like what's going on, and it took multiple doctors and nurses to hold me down because I was trying to rip tubes out of my throat and trying to just figure out like what was going on.
So you were intubated and sedated, but you started to come out of the sedation. And I'm grateful that I wasn't there and my mom wasn't there, but unfortunately, your mom was there. And she's seen everything. And it really scared her, because you just started to come out of it. And of course, not knowing and having the reflex reaction and trying to pull things out, they had to sedate you even more. And they had to restrain you. And I remember talking to one of the nurses, and she was saying, your dad's a fighter. He's going to get through this. She said, he's so strong. I couldn't even hold his leg down. I was just trying, and it took multiple people to just try and hold him down. So yeah, you were fighting your way through.
Yeah.
And I know that later on, you stood restrained for multiple days. The whole time that you were intubated, they had to keep you restrained. And a little bit after, even when the breathing tube did come out, you were still sedated for a while. And it was really hard to watch you, but sometimes you wanted to move your arms, you wanted to get up. And it was like trying to tell you, you can't do that. You can't move it, like relax, because I know that you're very agitated throughout the process and not understanding. And to our understanding, you don't remember a lot of stuff. You're relearning. And sometimes you're learning again and again as we tell you these things, what actually happened.
Yeah, I think the underlying message there is you have to fight. Even if it's goes against the constraints of what the hospital wants, that's when you have to allow your mindset to step in and fight and not be a victim to your circumstances, whether it's something you're struggling with or something you may end up unraveling in the future. You've got to fight back, and make sure that you're preparing yourself mentally and physically to be able to push back, because that, believe it or not, I believe is truly propelled my road to recovery, is because I'm not being a victim, not being a victim to what the doctors say or the nurses or the hospital, but I'm choosing to fight back and take control of my destiny.
You know, when they took out your breathing tube, we weren't in the room. It was the doctors that was taking it out and the nurses. And they told us that the first thing that you said when that breathing tube came out and you could finally talk was mind over matter. You told the doctor, mind over matter. And by the time that me and Mom ended up back in the room, you were reciting Dale Carnegie. That's Creasy's name.
Mm-hmm.
And you kept saying, warrior. I'm a warrior. I'm a warrior. I'm in the fight. And the thing that I kept hearing was trials and tribulations, but I think you said that after. But you started reciting what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. And you just kept reciting it over and over and over again. And that's when I knew that you were starting to come back to us.
Wow.
Because that was so you. And it was hard to see you struggle with talking, but you were doing it, but it's like you were saying affirmations to yourself. Like you could finally talk and you were giving yourself affirmations in that moment while you were fighting to get your voice back.
It's funny because you run across so many people that go to seminars on motivational events and so forth, but at the end of the day, you're preparing yourself for a situation that comes up like this. Maybe not to this extreme, but when something comes up emotionally, psychologically, or physically, it's being able to grab into that repertoire of your library internally and being able to pull out all that stuff that you've been exposed to or learned, to be able to, the mindset's such a powerful thing, and to be able to now take the mindset and say, okay, what the mind can perceive and conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. And I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter. And that right there is, I truly honestly believe that shortens the learning curve when it comes to healing.
I was left speechless. It has been a journey. But hearing you say those things when you came to was everything in that moment. Because I knew that you were fighting. I knew that you were going to get through it. And you were just going to keep fighting to. And I want to add that you don't remember this, but before you had your breathing tube out, you were kind of communicating with us, but you were still sedated. You were communicating with your eyes and your feet. And you had to give little reactions before you could actually speak. And that's how we knew that you were starting to understand us, although we were aware that you probably wouldn't remember. But we would try and communicate with you as much as you could. And that was tough. So when you finally got that breathing tube out, it was like light. It was like that light was starting to come back through. You were starting to come back.
Wow. It's powerful.
I do want to ask, because I know a lot of people say this when they're in a coma or under sedation. And I know it's different for you because you don't really remember a lot of things. But I'm just curious to know if you do remember hearing people, or you were aware of people's presences or conversations that were happening.
Aware of people's presence and little tidbits, but there was so much chaos and so much confusion going on within myself. But I did hear little pieces here and there, but I was trying to construct them and put them together that was a little foreign. But I know there were people in the room. I know that I felt like the positive energy and the prayers and so forth, which gave me almost like more of a will to want to come out of this.
You had so many people reaching out. It was a very beautiful thing to see the community that you built and how many people you impacted. Not just family and friends, but people so many people I've never met. I may have heard of them, I may not have. Every single day, because I started posting about your accident, every single day, there was at least 10 to 15 new people that were reaching out. I could not keep up. So when I realized how many people were reaching out, I started posting more consistently and I tried to give some updates, but there was just so much going on and so much going on with the hospital and with, getting everything in order. I tried to start posting videos to at least, give some people an update, but I was so overwhelmed and that was okay. I stepped into that role of, if you want to see him, if you want an update, reach out to me. I mean, part of the time I was on my phone. I was messaging somebody. I think if I could go back, the thing that I would do differently is I would throw everybody in a group chat and I would just send out one message to everybody. But that's what part of the posting was, because there were just so many people, to the point where we were gauging how you were, and you weren't doing that well after. It wasn't right to have so many people coming in and out. We were trying to be very sensitive to where you were, but also allowing you to see people because we knew that was going to help you. And some people, I know that you don't remember seeing them, but they were there. Whether they seen you or they were downstairs, just sitting with us, right next to us, making sure we had food, making sure that we had water, just the basic essentials that was so easy just to forget about. But to the point where I had to kind of stop people from, I kind of had to say, some people who were close, yes, you can come see them. Other people, you know what, let's just wait till you get to the hospital, because just gauging you, it wasn't the best time for people to see you. And I know that you were getting overwhelmed at times with people coming in and out, because of course it was taking a lot of energy from you. But I also think that it was really important for you.
I think something very important is, this situation could happen to anybody, as simple as a car accident, but it's important to know who that designated person is that's going to step in to help you in a case like this, who's going to help you navigate communication and medical decisions and so forth. And, I thank you and applaud you that you stepped in and you're able to help navigate a big part of that, and I don't think I was ever spoken like if something like this were to happen, that you would step into it. But it's important for mothers, fathers, even kids to have the conversation. Hey, if something were to happen, I need you to step in. That's a conversation that needs to happen, a real conversation, because how many accidents happen on a daily basis and how many people don't have that voice to be able to speak for them or about them. So I just want to make sure that I bring that to the forefront, that especially mothers and fathers have the conversation, who you're going to designate, older son, older daughter, younger son, daughter, family member, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, whoever, but know who that designated person is that will step in to help navigate through the turmoil and the chaos.
I was really grateful at the time that I had been cued in on some things, although I didn't understand everything, and I had to communicate with local people, and they were very helpful with trying to figure out all these different things that you have going on, and then not understanding how much. And I think that it really did give me a newfound respect for you, because you do. I don't know how the heck you do it, but it was so much. But I didn't just step up. I became a mini version of you. And there's a lot of people that can attest to this, fortunately and unfortunately. A lot of people are telling me, you're just like your dad. And when people would tell me that, I'd be like, oh, don't say that. I'm not my dad. But during this time when people said, you're just like your dad, I was so proud for people to say that. Like, yes, I am my dad. Shit's hit the fan, but my mind went right to, what do I need to get together? What are the affairs that I need to figure out? Who do I need to call to make sure? And I made dozens of calls. And I figured it out along the way. And that has a lot to do with what you instilled in me. And I just knew I have to step up. And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I had to put some people in their place. I had to make sure the hospital was communicating with us better. I had to be a little demanding. I had to advocate for you. We had to make sure we were advocating for you. It's important to understand that you are your loved one's advocates, and you can't expect that they're getting the proper care and that you're going to be communicated every step of the way, because sometimes you're not. And you hope, but sometimes you're not. And you have to be able to step up, and you have to be able to be a little pushy, respectfully, but sometimes you do have to be ready and willing to push back to make sure that you as a family are being communicated with and you understand everything that's going on. And I've also put some other people in their place. It was a lot, and it was overwhelming, and at that point I was no bullshit. It was a lot, but I did it. And I say fortunately, unfortunately, some people, they experienced an interesting side of me, but all in terms of making sure that everything was handled, everything was cared for, and that everything was good. I don't think you would have agreed with some of, my son, but it's okay. There are some conversations to be had with some people. But I want to ask this question, and I know I have to be prepared for the answer. Was there ever a time when you felt like giving up? Was there ever those moments when you felt like you were at that crossroads between staying and going?
Yes.
I know you said that there is a lot of chaos. Do you care to share any of what you were going through?
We just had to kind of play everything out and look at what the best scenario was for this situation. And kind of take a look at all my, like the whole situation, and almost like take a mental inventory of the pros and cons of staying or leaving. And in the end, I decided that with all this work that I've done, mentally, psychologically, and that my work's not done yet. When I started this journey of trying to be a better father, and fatherhood voices, it was to fix something that I lacked it. And then I looked at all of you, the family, Bella, you, your sisters, your mom, everything, and realized that there was still stuff left for me here to do. My grandma, grandpa, your aunts, uncles, like my brother, and it's like, no, there's still a lot more for me to do here. So, although it was almost like you're looking at an uphill battle, and do I even want to start up that trek of that uphill battle, or do I just want to surrender? But I realized, like, no, there's still a lot left for me to do. And if anything, this is going to be the foundation. This is going to be the true authenticity of how I want to show up going forward. Because it's pretty much like me coming back from the deaths. And I've gone through a lot in my lifetime, and a lot of tragedies and ups and downs. But this for here, so probably been one of the most challenging and biggest lessons that I'm facing. And I'm ready to take on that fight. I'm ready to come out swinging So in answer to your question without going in circles is, yes, there was a point where I thought about, just for a short instant, maybe it's time to just close my eyes and just free myself.
It's a lot to digest for me. You started to talk about some things that you had that really made an impact on you this entire thing about life. I want to know what your takeaways from this are. What has this changed within your perspectives on different things? Because I can tell you personally, I have changed my perspective on a lot of things about lives, and I feel so much more gratitude after coming face to face with death. And even though it wasn't my death, it was essentially the death of you, who you were, and not knowing if you were going to make it through, and just having all the unknowns. And I've been through spiritual deaths and everything, but this tops them all. And I know that there's things like, I don't rush when I'm driving anymore. I like traffic. I used to get frustrated, and now I like traffic because it's slow. And I'm not going to lie and say I didn't think about things happening on driving anywhere, because anything can happen at any point. You just never know. Like you said, accidents happen all the time. And one of the most dangerous things you can do is get in a car and drive. And I tried not to carry that fear with me. And sometimes it did get to me. And I knew, okay, I have to take a break. I have to go slower because I just need a moment to collect myself before I can keep moving forward. And I was able to start working through that. But I am not in a rush at all. That little thing, that perspective was changing me, as well as not waiting to do the things that I want to do. Executing on all those things I said I wanted to. But you never know how much time we have left, and you never know when your life is going to change.
So I mean, you're going to be later than you already are half the time.
No,
Because trying to get you on time to things is a nightmare for now.
Some people are literally born without a sense of time, okay? It's a new study. Look it up. I think I'm one of those people that just, I wasn't born with a sense of time. But I want to know, what has this taught you? What are the major things that it's taught you? What has it changed for you? Not only just your circumstances and your everyday life, but your outlooks.
First thing is gratitude. Gratitude. Being in gratitude of everything. The good, the bad, the traffic, the not traffic. Being in gratitude. Community. Community of family and friends and relationships. And then also just getting to a point where I don't want to deal with toxicity anymore. I don't want to deal with negativity. I don't want to deal with all the BS and drama. So even on the last couple of days that I've been on this journey of healing, I don't want to be encircled in all the chaos that's going on. You know, conflict or people disagreeing and so forth. I just don't want any part of it. So it's now showing up going forward that I want to make sure that I'm minimizing all the chaos around me and just not partaking in it. You know, if someone's having chaos, you guys can deal with it on your own, but I don't want to be a part of it. That's it.
So life's too short to...
Life's too short to, focus on the bullshit. So...
I'm curious to know now what you would tell your younger self, if you can give your younger self, or even yourself a year ago, 2 years ago, up to before this accident. What would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself to do differently?
Don't take life so seriously. Just enjoy the moment. It took me a long time for me to tap into my inner child and really be free and silly, but I would have done that a lot sooner. I'd done that a lot sooner.
You know, there were a lot of things that went through my mind, as I'm sure when you started to come through. There's a lot of different things about if you had left, and when that time comes, when your journey comes to an end, what kind of legacy are you leaving behind? And I want to know, what is it that you want people to remember you for? What is part of your legacy? And I'm sure that it's probably changed a lot since you survived all of this.
I'm going to be the best father I can be, the best husband, the best son, the best brother, the best friend, and the list goes on and on. And also want to invite people into my community. You know, I go to Disneyland a lot, and I go out to eat and go different places. I want to make it an open invitation when people want to come. Not be this like secret agent. Oh, I went here, I went there, but you know, I want to start to embrace the conversations and the community. You know, so that's something I want to do going forward. Is definitely going to embrace my inner child even a lot more. And but you know, when this accident happened, I was actually on my way to Magic Mountain to go get on the rides because I have a pass. And I had invited a friend that he'd been wanting to go, and he couldn't go that day. But and make sure I open that invitation for people. Hey, I'm going to be at Magic Mountain. Anybody want to come? Or hey, I'm going to go do this. And you know, just because I'm realizing how important it is to just be around community, how important community is, and even if it's just maybe you're not saying things, but just being in that circle. Maybe you may say something, or the way you approach something may just give someone the hope that they need to continue on. In closing, just want to say that being gratitude for life, for movement. You know, right now I'm struggling just to be able to move. You know, my mobility is probably at like 2 to 5% of what it should be. And having to surrender and ask for help. So, you know, if you're not going through these struggles, just when you wake up in the morning, be thankful that you can get out of bed without pain. Be thankful that you can get in the shower and not need help. And to get ready and put on music and sing and just be at the moment. Because there's a lot of people out there right now that don't have the mobility, physically or even mentally, the mindset to be able to cope. So be great, give yourself grace, and gratitude. And you're going to go into traffic and people are going to cut you off. Just let them, whatever. Focus on you. No need to get upset, to get unraveled for things that you have no control over. That'd be my closing message, is being gratitude, be grateful, and especially, like I said, for movement and everything else that comes with it.
I think one of the things I want to highlight is giving yourself grace and giving yourself moments when you're going through hard times, and knowing that it's okay, even if the world is falling apart around you and shit's hit the fan and everything's just going crazy. Allow yourself to find the moments in the chaos that recharge you, that give you joy, that give you happiness, that make you feel grateful for life. And I know that was something that was hard, but so important for each of us as a family that we're going through this, to find those moments of gratitude. And sometimes that did look like singing in the car on the way to the hospital, or singing on the way home, and joining in and just singing. I think one of the days we sang Disney songs because I needed to listen to something that was just light and fun and brought me memories of joy. And it was putting on my Disney playlist and getting mom to sing along and just really getting lost in that moment. And that's what we needed that morning.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for instilling the values and that drive in me and that hustle in me and all those things that really helped me step up and get through this. But you owe me a vacation. That's all I'm saying. You owe us a vacation. Once we get through all this, and I know it's going to be some time, but we need to just, we talked about family vacations. We need to just go.
I'm coming back. I'll be back stronger and better than ever, and I'm ready to jump in the camera and speak what I need to speak and spew it all out. I'm excited for that. So, thank you for putting this together.
And with that, that wraps up another episode of Fatherhood Voices. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.